Hey, great day, y'all. Welcome to 2025. And in this car chit chat, I am going to be answering questions that came through in the DMs and on YouTube and for the podcast around wrapping up the year, how to take 14 days off from my business. And pretty much I'll let y'all ask me whatever y'all wanted to ask me as we move into this new year. Hey, what's up, y'all? So it is currently January 7th. And I am on my way to the Juvenile Justice Hall facility. And I have about a 50-minute drive. And so I'm sure that I will be able to answer all of these questions that came through DMs and just having conversations with entrepreneurs, service providers, and things like that around what does it take to run a business, wrap it up at the end of the year, and then also moving into some goal setting, and I'm gonna say some abundant intention setting for the new year. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So one of the main questions that I got on multiple occasions is when and how did I decide that I would do the 14 days? So it actually started the full 14 days in 2020. So because I in 2020 was primarily a psychologist, and when I say primarily, it just means that of 100% of business, more than 70% of my time was dedicated to my mental health business at the time because I was doing coaching part-time. I, as a therapist would take off, on the weekends. I may take off for a couple of days at a time and do like a little quick trip. But for the most part, it wouldn't be 7 or 14 days unless it was like Christmas to New Year's kind of thing. So when 2020 hit, I just was burnt out at the end of the year, to be honest. And that's when my coaching business had took an unexpected, very blessed quantum leap. And I was working a lot. So I decided to implement in our community with the clients we had at the time, the rest, reset, and recharge model. And I got it from one of my homeboys that I grew up with in high school. He went into the service and he taught me about military personnel doing R&R. And he would skip over from Afghanistan and go over to Thailand or whatever and stay over there for a couple months and then go back and work overseas and then just pretty much country hop. But he called it R&R, where he would go somewhere for 2 weeks to a month plus. And so I was I wonder what would happen if I created my own R&R. And so I was playing around with words and I'm I really want to rest, relax, rest, recharge, and reset. So those are our triple R's, our framework for our clientele for the end of the year. And we actually start introducing our clientele to this, honestly, throughout the whole year, but we really, really hyper focus on it starting at the end of September so that they can start setting up whatever they need to set up for the fourth quarter so that they can intentionally take off. Let's just say if they do want to take off, a week for Thanksgiving, maybe even 2 weeks or a week from Christmas to New Year, etc. So that's when I started the 14 days. And I also took the model of 14 days because clearly Christmas to New Year's is 7. But I took that model because I realized after doing numerous self-care trainings, meaning me host them, and also me get CEs in burnout prevention, I had saw firsthand that 7 days off from a job is not enough whether you're single or have kids, because the actual vacation primarily starts on the 8th day. So think about it. When you're off for a week, depending on how your regular schedule is set up, your first 7 days may be, if you're not out of town, doing all the appointments that you couldn't probably get to with a regular 9 to 5 or, general schedule as a person with a career or being in entrepreneurship. Maybe you have kids, maybe you have other obligations that may prevent you from actually doing maybe a lot of the health appointments like doctor, dentist, and such. Or maybe you're in a position where you can't take off like that, even though we don't have to go to the doctor a lot. You get what I'm saying. Really think about the last time you took a vacation and was half of the vacation, and if not all of it, taken up by you going to all of these appointments and doing a lot of the errands and running around that is not actually pleasurable, but needed in order for you to take care of yourself. Then once you actually are done with your 7 days, that includes the weekend, and if you have kids like me and they're in sports and all these things, all those things are busy, then you have to go back to work, and then you realize that you just got into vacation mode. So because I, saw that firsthand with myself and with coworkers when I, had a 9-to-5 job, I started telling myself, I'm going to position my business one day where I'm able to take off for 14 days straight. Now, of course, this came in stages. The first 14 days, I didn't fully take off from 2020 to 2022. And what I mean by that is I was out of the office. I wasn't having any coaching calls. I wasn't having any therapy sessions in my mental health business because I have 2 different business structures. But I did use that time to implement what's called a CEO retreat. And during that time, I may read books that I find that may be more mindset stimulating, where I can focus because I don't have to think about anything else. During certain years when I did the 14 days, I sometimes did not create content. I didn't completely go off the radar, but you may see what some people saw in December of this year, 2023, where I was posting more fun travel content versus posting about marketing and sales in the business. Now, there are certain seasons where I had set it up where there would be a launch of some sort of a product, digital product, when I would return. So I had choices. I could either have my team set it up where they're running it. Clearly that's the idea, right? But that's not where I started at. It started off with me scheduling and using scheduling tools to schedule social media posts. But the one thing that I realized is that when you post, people want to engage. And if you're not engaged, social media platforms don't like that. So this year I made the decision that I would only post really in my stories for the 14 days, because that's more indirect and a lot of people don't reply to the stories. So I did things like polls and things like that, but I didn't really ask any questions outside of what are y'all goals for the new year or something like that. So that answers that question about when I started it and why I did 14 days. So the next question that came in around those lines is, how did I know, or what things did I put in place to let me know that my team can handle it? So like I said, in 2020, I didn't know if anybody could handle it. I had a very small team. At that time, it was me, my husband, a virtual assistant not in this country. I had a podcast editor and a video editor. That was it. I had just hired an admin assistant / project manager to work in my company, but she wasn't going to start until the new year. So I told my team, and this was risky, I said, everybody's off for these 2 weeks. So some of the things that we put in place include, but not limited to, automated emails, meaning when someone emails any type of customer service inbox, they automatically get a reply. And, some things I just learned when we went on holiday break working at facilities or agencies. So as a therapist, for example. So one of the things I put in place is like an out of office reply, but I thought to myself, what are some things that people would be looking for when they emailed me? So as a therapist, they may be looking for my calendar and to see if I have availability. So I'm going to link them with my automated calendar form and to get on my calendar, but I also need to make sure that my calendar is not open until I come back on a day that I want to actually see a client. And for my mental health business, I had a rule where I needed to review the information in the consultation at least a day or 2 business days before I got on the call to see if I need to weed people out, meaning they don't meet criteria, but they still filled out the form. Let's just say if I only see adults, but they wrote in the box, but I really want my kids to be seen, kind of thing. So we had automated responses for mental health. We also had automated responses for our coaching clients. So we gave links like, here's the link to the Kajabi portal. If you need additional support, please use the Facebook group. The alumni and clients in our programs love to support one another. Not everybody goes off the radar during Christmas, So we put everything in those emails that would be able to support our clientele, get support while the office is technically shut down. Now, in terms of billing, we also, on the mental health side, if you have a mental health practice or a medical practice, we also made sure to submit all of the billing and logistically, and I learned this years prior to even 2020 when I had a solo practice and it grew into a group practice, but we still were at least closed for 1 week at minimum, but I may have been off for like 10 days or something like that. So one of the things that we did, especially for insurance panels, is that a lot of the insurance panels paid like 45 days or 30 days after we saw the client, and then some paid 7 or 14. So we kept track of that clearly so that we can expect payment for cash flow. But one of the things that I did intentionally over the years is I would have my last session a week before I'm actually shut down. So it's kind of like the last week is more administrative duties, where we're making sure that all the claims were accepted. So when I say shut down, this can be for you going out of town for your birthday as an entrepreneur. It can be for, you'll just be gone out of the office. You're going to a training. Some of our mastermind students come out of town with us for like 4 to 5 days. So bottom line is, if you know you're going to be out of the office and you really don't want to reply to anything, ask yourself, what do you need to set up in place so that if something does need to be checked, and let's just say you don't have hired help yet, what are some of the things that you can set in place so that you can double check it before you leave? Notify your CPA. If there's a meeting that's supposed to happen, take them off the books. If there's any calendar events, make sure your calendar is blocked. So those are the mild things that we did, and especially at the end of the year for communication with our clients. Now, as of right now, for my personal email box, I don't do a auto reply, but my team does, primarily because my inbox that I check every day, but I don't go through all those emails, is because it's the hub for the whole company. So as you can imagine, we're getting all kinds of emails. So I don't want all those emails, to include even for my coaches, to be getting all of these auto replies, right? And then I come in, I feel like with double the amount of messages, like the actual inbox. And then on top of that, if somebody tried to reply to the auto reply, like it's just too much. And so those are the logistics. And then in terms of my team, it's really about communication. I asked them, but we should be asking this throughout the year, not just before you go out of town, is what support do you need from me? What questions do you think, or what concerns do you think may arise? Let's just say if they're working, which happened this year. This was our first year we brought a team member in and said, I don't want to completely shut down. And they didn't want to not get paid because they're part-time. So I said, you don't have to work all of your hours, but this is what I would like you to do, is check the inbox and, check certain things. And I also had like trainings and stuff that needed to be in place when I came back for my mental health business. So emails were still being sent out, things were still being purchased. So I was like, if somebody emails you and they tell you they didn't get their ebook, do you know what to do? What questions do you have, etc. So it's just really about open communication with the team members that are still there, to ask them if they need everything they believe they need, because the last thing I would want is for someone to contact me and they believe it's an emergency, but it's not an emergency. So a book that I highly, highly recommend is a book called Clockwork. Try to get the most updated version. I would recommend to get the physical book for the activities and the Audible book. I personally love the book to the point where, as I'm talking about it, I think I need to listen to it again, because it talks about roles and responsibilities, and it talks about, how do you build up your business to be able to take time off. And even if you don't have a team, you can still set up your business so that you can shut down and at least some things are moving and shaking. It's just, it may be limited if there's a customer support component that needs to be part of your business. All right, so let's shift gears, because I did organize the questions based off somewhat categories. Someone had asked, what kind of things ahead of time did you plan for the trip? And I'm assuming this is personal and business. So I already addressed the business stuff. So let's go to personal. I'm a mom of 2 boys, 6 and 13. And I knew that we would be, surprising our boys on Christmas with a Walt Disney World trip, meaning we left on the 27th and we came back on January 3rd. So some of the things that I already have in place, only because Walt Disney World is a place where, if you've been following me for a while, we go to Florida quite a bit. We go to Disneyland in California monthly, if not multiple times a month, because we're annual pass holders in Southern California. And so Disney World is not new to me, which means that I like systems. I'm a systems business coach. So I try my best to set up frameworks, systems, lists that are templates that I can just reproduce on my phone through like the reminder app, or even through like Notion, or just on Google Drive or something. And for the most part, if we and our kids are going to the same places once a year over and over again, then it'd be best that I have separate lists for designated locations. So for example, Florida in the summer has a different list than Disney Alani in the summer. They both are warm climates, but one is more theme park heavy, which means that we pack tennis shoes, meaning we may need bigger suitcases. And the other one is more beach oriented, so we can condense our suitcases because beach gear don't take up that much room. So I use lists to plan out my vacations. And if you go back to our November Very Merry Christmas party, I'll link that in the description box and podcast show notes as well. You will see in my very 2 videos, you'll see like an Amazon haul, but I actually share my packing list just so you can get an idea. Even if you're not going to Disney, it just gives you an idea of how I organize my thoughts. So for example, we look at categories like, where are we going to park the car? What airport are we going out of? How much is parking? For me, do they have a reward system? Because this recent trip, we were able to get all nights for free. I had earned like 18 nights for free. Didn't even realize it because I never cashed out any of my points at this particular parking location at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, for like the last 3 years. So when I went, like this trip, I ain't gonna talk about it on this episode, but this trip was definitely the come up with points, credits, and just a whole lot of stuff that I found in my computer that helped us out financially, be able to just like have a funner trip, you know, with not putting out so much. So we do the travel logistics. Another thing that I do that's like more of a travel hack that I just started implementing in the last year is using gift cards, especially when we go to Disney. It helps us manage the money better. And we can also budget the money by putting the amount of money on the card for how much we want to spend, which means that if we run out of money, I mean, no souvenirs or nothing, right? So let me know in the comment box, or if you're listening to it on the podcast, you can DM me on Instagram. Let me know if you want me to do a whole breakdown of maybe more in detail of how we've budgeted different types of trips, whether it be business trips or personal trips. I love to talk about travel, especially if it relates to enhancing your mood to not work, and or maybe it's like a blend or a one-off CEO trip where you're going to like get a refresher for your business. So those are some of like the travel arrangements. And then other things that are basic are like, travel accommodations. Do we want to get a rental car? This trip, we actually did not get a rental car when I priced it out. Again, because we've been there a lot. If this is your first time going to a location, it may be a little difficult to do that. But we had also just been there in November, so I got a glimpse of how much Uber costs based off of our location. Also doing Instacart to the resorts. And so, like, for example, sneak peek. If we would have got a rental car, we typically, for a family of 4, more so to get from the airport. That's always the pet peeve because of the luggage. We usually have to get a car that is a SUV or a 7-seater to lay down the back seat with 4 people or more. If it's just me, my husband, and 1 kid, then it might be a little bit more conducive if we're not staying for a week or more. But the longer we stay, and this trip, there were way more questions around the weather because one day it's raining, one day it's windy, one day it's hot, one day it's warm, one day it's cold. Florida during November and December just act up, right? At least we know in the summer, if it rained, it's still 90,000 degrees, right? And so it was really hard for us to pack, honestly, for this trip, which meant that not for every day, but for half of the days, I may have had an extra pair of tights, or I try not to pack jeans or whatnot, but that takes up more room, right? Then I had sandals, but then I also had swim shoes, then I also had tennis shoes, and so with 4 people, we have to get a bigger car. So I asked myself for this particular trip, would I rather Uber? Because I also realized that if this is supposed to be a for real vacation, I don't want to drive, because most of the time I'm driving. Why? Because I know where everything is at in Disney. That's just what it is. I can get there way faster when I ain't got to look at no map. And so it happens. So I told my husband, I literally don't want to cook on this trip because we do stay in resorts where you get kitchens. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm not cooking. We need to budget out eating out. We can do quick service, which is like fast food at Disney. But on some of the nights, we can go eat some good food, of course, because I ain't trying to eat no chicken tenders every single night. We also are watching vlogs so that we can experience different type of foods when we go to these amusement parks. And also, let's do some resort days where we just hanging out. We went to the movies. All that stuff was like dripped out in the vlog. But bottom line is, I create my schedule day by day. And that's how I come up with the budget. And that's how I plan accordingly for trips. Now, do I plan out like 6 months in advance? Most of the time, no. But if I'm going somewhere where I've never been before, then the answer is yes, because that means I have to do more research. And I'm a person where I prefer to watch people's vlogs that are recorded and uploaded within the last 12 months so that I can have an accurate presentation of what is actually going to happen once we get there. We did that, and we were very well prepared for when we went to London, when we went to Paris, when we went to Jamaica. Like, I watched so many vlogs, like where I manifested even a better experience just because I was already immersed in the vision. Okay. All right. Another question that came up, but it kind of overlaps with personal and business, is how far in advance, which I kind of already answered this question, but how far in advance did I start planning for the 14 days off? So I somewhat answered this question as it relates to when I made the decision to take 14 days off, but this is an annual thing because I would love to take a month off at some point. I would love to be off a whole month where I'm not doing no team meetings, I'm not doing nothing, especially because, our kids are off one of the months in the summer altogether. But then there are 2 months out of the year where our youngest son is out of school because he has a different school schedule than our eldest. So I would love to be off for a whole month. So when I think about what things outside of team building had to go into, being off for 2 weeks, some of the other areas in my personal life that I look at is, what do I want to do during the extra week if I'm taking a vacation for one of the weeks to rest, reset, and recharge, especially at the end of the year? And then how far back do I start planning that? So because this particular RRR experience was at the end of the year, what I chose to do, and I think I may be answering somebody else's question as well, so we'll see that in a moment. But one of the things I looked at was the calendar of events when I come back to work, and I work backward. So because I knew that we would have coaching calls in January, I asked myself what happened in the previous year, reflection, when I immediately, my first week, went into all coaching calls. And did I come straight home from like a vacation or a 14-day hiatus, but never a for real vacation with kids? When did I come back full force? And what did that do for me? Or how did it hinder me? And it really hindered me because what I realized looking back is I was exhausted because I didn't warm myself back up to the schedule. So I decided this year, 2023, that my first week back, I did decide to have our one-on-one mastermind calls just because of the way the month fell. New Year's was like in the middle of the week this year. So I typically do come back the first full Monday in January. And what I decided to do was like not have no launch clearly in the first week. I wasn't going to force myself to record all this content in the first week unless I'm in flow and in alignment with it. And the only thing that was on my calendar was one team meeting. And I told my team kind of like act like I'm not there outside of our one-on-one calls. So we had no group calls, no launches, just a few one-on-one individual sessions. And then this is technically my first week back, so I am going to the jail. But it's like, think about it as like one topic or one activity per day. And that's actually how I've learned how to just schedule out my entire weeks, because that works well for me versus being burnt out or micro burnouts, because I'm constantly switching gears throughout the day. Like, oh, let's record a YouTube video. Then, oh, let's have a team meeting. Then, oh, let's work on a launch. It's too much bouncing around. And believe it or not, that helps you get more tired before your day is over. So to make a long story short, I tend to work everything backward. And I try to visualize what that week will look like when I come back. And if it's a lot of things that I need to plan, that determines how far out I plan. If it's not a lot to do, because at this point we're on rinse and repeat because we've been doing it for 4 years, then it's just a matter of me communicating with my team to make sure they have what they need. And then me talking to my husband about what those other 7 days are going to look like when we come back. Is he going to go to work? Is he going to, chill, hang out with his cousins? Like, what are we doing with these kids? It's just, to me, ultimately it boils down to open communication. Okay, so the next question was, how do we decide on the family destination? And was it a family decision or was it TK's decision? So it was TK's decision, but I consulted with my husband and he was cool with it. He all for getting on planes, okay? He ain't never arguing. So let me rewind time. We had already made the decision to go to Walt Disney World, honestly, initially, to use my mom's timeshare. The year was ending and she was like, are you going to use it? Because if not, you need to find somebody to rent it out. And I'm like, we'll go, because we did it last year. Because we like to honestly go places when my son is out of school for like 4 weeks, my youngest, and go somewhere fun. So we decided to do Walt Disney World. And then when we went in November, we didn't even stay in her spot because we end up switching it up, because then we end up planning the December trip. Now, I didn't realize all the things that were going to happen in November, but what I realized when we were there was that I wanted to bring our eldest son, because I realized that he had never experienced Disney World outside of the summer. And my youngest son had saw, for 2 years straight, the Grand Floridian gingerbread house, like the Christmas decor. I mean, he had actually seen it back in 2021 when Walt Disney World first back opened after 2020. But I realized that our eldest, he had seen it in Southern California, but it's different, when you go to all the theme parks. So I had told my husband literally when I was there, I'm like, we got to bring him back either next year, but we also are clearly bringing him back for New Year. So we're going to see if all of the same decorations are up, which they were. So that was the original reason, was that I wanted to expose him to a different season, but also do a trip. And then we stayed in my mom's timeshare during that time. And we did a split stay, surprise the kids, all that stuff again is in the series that just dropped in January. So that's how we came about with the decision to go. We didn't tell the kids until Christmas, even though my eldest son had found out, I believe, from his mom about the trip before we can technically surprise him. But I mean, it ain't like he ain't been before. So we still had more, surprises up our sleeve that he definitely was not aware of. And it was just very fun to see their responses. And so I did plan the trip. I did research flights. I did all the things related to everything related to that trip. Like, I am the trip curator. Okay, so this question, I wanted to save it to last, but I'm just kind of like going in order of how they were like listed or whatever. But one of the questions came in is, what did I learn when I came back from the 2 weeks off? So my biggest aha moment, considering there is a 6-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they are in that life season where they are either wrestling or bickering all day, and they're boys. So if you get it, you get it. If you know, you know. Boys just are boys. That's all I can say. So it was not relaxing. The only time I really relaxed was when we went by the pool and we were walking around maybe certain resorts that like the Polynesian felt like we were at the beach. But one of the things that I told my husband, because I was like, this December feels a lot different than the last two. So last December, the week before Christmas, we went to Disney Alani, and me just being by water, even though we have the two boys, it's not a lot of running around, let's get on rides, arguing about which ride we gonna get on, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want this kind of food. Like, it, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, let's just go to breakfast and then do what y'all gonna do at the beach. Or go to what's called Auntie's house, the kids area, and go play some video games while me and your dad go to the adult pool kind of thing, or chill. So we did that in 2023. 2023. I've probably been saying 2023 this whole video, but it's 2024. My bad. So, because I'm still thinking it's 2024. So, we did that Christmas of 2023. And then, technically in 2023, y'all, we went to Alani 3 times. We went that December. We went for me and my husband's anniversary and Mother's Day because it fell on the same day in 2023. And then before that, we also went in January after Christmas, and we took my mom and my cousin and them met out there. We had like this 2-bedroom suite at Disney Alani. But I realized when I came back from those trips, I felt, and I hadn't even came home when I had this aha moment. I was more relaxed. And so I told my husband immediately, like on the 5th day, I said, I know what the problem is. I said, don't get me wrong, I'm having fun. However, for the end of the year, I really need to be intentional and go somewhere where I can sit by water. So whether it is Alani, whether it is Jamaica, whether it is San Diego, but I prefer to get on a plane. I don't care if it's Miami. I don't need to be at nobody's theme park during the last 2 weeks of the year because I've been running and walking all year, aka marathons and sprints in my business. So that to me was my biggest aha moment. I didn't have any big shifts around like travel. The only other aha moment, but we knew it was going to be coming soon, but it's here, is there is an age gap. So on one end, both of the boys like play well when we're at the amusement parks. My youngest son loves thrill rides, so he act like he's 13, and now he can get on all the rides, at least at Disney. But it's gotten to the point where our eldest like wants to go to Universal. He wants to go to Magic Mountain, and our youngest does too. So next time we go to Walt Disney World, we definitely are going to explore the Universal parks. We have done that in the past, but now it's a lot better, at least because Universal in Florida, if we're going there, they do have a park more for the kids, but roller coasters. And then they have the big Universal. So we can technically double dip. And as long as they know that we're going to both parks, but you know, one may be more active than the other may desire to be or can be, like my youngest son may not be able to get on all the rides clearly. That's something that we're going to consider because our eldest son will be in high school next year. And also, me and my husband just finished talking today around, we don't even know what, honestly, vacations are going to look like next year because our eldest is at the age where, I mean, as soon as we came home, before we came home, he was trying to make plans, and he did, around going to Magic Mountain. And we were like, we're tired, so somebody needs to come pick you up or drop you off because we ain't about to do all that. Like, we just came from 7 days. And it was funny because when he came back home, he was talking about my legs hurt, I'm exhausted. And we were like, now you know why we said when we come home on Friday night, early Saturday morning, midnight, we're going to rest all day Saturday. I didn't take down no Christmas decoration until Sunday. I'm tired, right? And we had like a layover. That was another aha moment. I guess I got more than I thought. We had credit on Southwest. We did wait till the last minute to buy them tickets because the tickets were like ridiculous, okay, to go to Florida. And that was our first time going during that time of year. So lesson learned. However, I'm about to bite that bullet or not go in terms of just paying $1,000 per ticket because, you know, we were able to use a lot of our credit, but at what expense? We had a layover for an hour and a half and another one for like 45 minutes. But it's just like wasted time. And the cheapest ticket, you had to leave like at 2:00, which meant that you got there at midnight or we got back home at midnight. We live about 40 miles away from the airport. You still got to wait on your baggage. You still got to get your car. We didn't even get home. I mean, if you even watch that vlog, I think I said it was like 2:00 in the morning, which meant that it was 11:00 at home. Okay. And so like, clearly we wide awoke, which is a problem because my husband's schedule was toe up to the flow up. He didn't barely sleep on the trip. I don't know what was going on. I was able to sleep after the first day, but when we got home, I was exhausted. My allergies was tripping. I noticed that every time I come home from Florida, it doesn't happen until I get off the airplane that my allergies my nose feels congested. And so it also taught me, but I also learned this a while ago, but I'll share this. You do want to take another rest day or two when you come back. Try not to, especially if you're going on a plane, don't try to go on vacation, whether it's relaxing or not, and just jump straight into work. You are actually jumping straight into another fight or flight response. That's not self-care. That wasn't even the purpose of you taking off. Okay, so the next question is, how do we decide which day we were going to come back? So like I said, the Christmas and New Year's Day felt a little weird. It was on a Wednesday, which meant that I prefer to have a whole week, like a Saturday to Sunday, Monday to Monday type trip. But we ended up doing Friday to Friday because Christmas fell on a Wednesday. And with our eldest son, we have a blended family. We get him half of the vacation. So we also have to keep that in mind with when we actually will go out of town. So that kind of threw this trip off because of where the holidays fell and when we got him. But we made it work. We did Friday to Friday. But keep in mind, I had already been off a week. So when we came back, technically on Friday, my work week started on Monday. So we could have went out there for 5 days, but I said, you know what? My week is going to be light, and this is what goes into the planning of the week. My week is going to be light. I only have one coaching call on that Monday. It's at 9 a.m. As long as I intentionally rest on Saturday, give my body and myself grace. And I even told myself, these Christmas decorations is up, but I love Christmas. So, I mean, if they up until January 15th, they're just going to be up. I want to clean up. Cleaning up is part of my coping mechanism. However, I'm not about to break my back and be tired if it's between seeing my client and cleaning up the Christmas decor. But I got my energy back, honestly, because it wasn't even like a restful Saturday because my nose was stopped up the whole time. So I was able to rest and go to sleep for long hours throughout the day. I did go grocery shopping on Saturday because I made myself get out the house to like get some air, and that felt good. And then I took like 2 different Benadryls on like different times of the day. And then in the evening, I got like my mojo back. So I started to take down some of the decorations in like the kitchen and stuff. And then we fully took down all the decorations on Sunday. But again, I was well rested. My husband took my kids outside. They played around with the football. And I felt like I was like rejuvenated. So we chose Friday out of convenience of the way the holidays fell. And then also when we were able to have both of the kids to actually go out of town. And I also just have learned when kids go back to school on that Monday, it is not, especially after a 7-day vacation where you're not relaxing by the beach. I think if we were at Alani, we usually do like Saturday to Saturday. But I will cut our trip short not to fly back home the day before our kids start school. That is detrimental. Your kids have been out of school for some districts 2 to 3 weeks. And I just don't think it's helpful to put your child in a stress-prone state to go back to school knowing doggone well they also got jet lag. They ain't got no sleep. They're tired. You know, Florida is 3 hours ahead of California versus when we go there, we're like up. But here, we're tired. Okay, so the question was, what does my first week look like? And I'm technically in my first week at the time of this recording. So on Monday, I had a one-on-one coaching client. I had a team meeting. And then I had a money date where I look at all of my business finances. And then I also went to the gym and did leg day. Then on Tuesday, I went, like, I think I just walked on my walking treadmill, and I didn't have any clients, but I worked on some systems things for an upcoming launch. Then, I'm at the jail. Today's Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, what do I have coming up? Tomorrow, I'm going to be back at the jail, so I don't have any clients. So I'm just going to continue to work on like one main thing. I may record some YouTube videos in the house. But I have that one main thing, which is coming to the jail Wednesday. And then I'm parked, I can tell y'all. And then on Thursday, I changed around coming to the jail on Thursdays because both of our kids get out of school early, or one of them gets out of school early. So we need to be flexible with where we are. So Thursday, I have a coaching call, and potentially one of my VIP clients is making up their session on that day just for the month of January, but we don't know yet. And then on Friday, I chose to make that my heavier day, where I have pretty much 4 coaching calls, 2 back-to-back, then a break. And when I mean a break, like an hour, and then 2 calls back-to-back, and then I'm done. So basically, I'm done with my day at 2 o'clock. So that's my first week coming back, and then Saturday, I'm back in the jail. And then my son has a flag football game for the first time. So it's still a pretty light week. I still have something to do every day of the week. But I, again, just chose what types of activities will I do that require low effort when I come back. Another question that came in is, was there anything that went wrong when I was away? So the answer was no. The only question that my team member had was she knew that on certain days my schedule would change with the kids. And so she wanted to make sure before she scheduled me for a training at some point in January that she did not overlook my kids' schedule, because she can see my full schedule with, like, I have like multiple calendars. And I did give her permission that when it comes down to this one agency collaborating with me to do a workshop, because I am changing up the kids' schedule and we didn't have everything together before we left for Christmas break, I really, really would prefer for her to send me a message and inquire. And she did, and that was the only time I talked to her. So I feel like this was probably one of the best, 14 days away that I've had, because it tested that my team member didn't have to contact me, while I was gone. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so I could just talk to y'all right now. Let me just shoot through these questions, because it probably took me longer because I was driving, and we've been talking for a long time, but I probably edited some stuff out. So let me see. I'm almost done. How do you balance enjoying the trip while trusting your team back home? Again, I've talked about this before, but I hire individuals who can be independent. So that's actually part of my requirements during my interview, and me looking at who I hire throughout the process. The team members that I've had outside of my husband have been with me for 2 to up to 4 years. And so I make sure that people can follow instructions. I make sure that people's goal is to be independent. I make sure that people want to grow in their role and want to own their role, because I don't want to own it for them. I just want to be able to oversee it and keep a pulse on it, but keep my distance. And so with that said, I feel really good about taking the 14 days off. I feel really good that my team members knew that they were able to handle things during the time off. And this is just only going to make us better when we do it again, where I will fully be able to be hands off in the next 14 days. But I'm sure even before the year is up, I'm going to be taking time off. Because one thing I also learned when we have like live events is that I really need to take time off when we come back home, because running a live event is not a joke, but I'm on a high when I'm there. But when I come home, your girl is exhausted. Okay. Now, this is a really good question. What advice would I give someone who is nervous about taking time off from their business? And so, of course, from the psychological perspective, I would say check in with yourself to ask yourself, why are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling nervous because you don't have things set up for someone to take over? Because that's a systems problem. That's not a nervous problem, right? You need to sit down and create the systems so that when you are gone, the systems can run your business, or a person with the systems can run your business. It also may have something to do with trust. Do you trust the people that you hired? But again, if you're hiring people per what we teach our clients, if you hire people according to your core values, what you believe in, integrity, honesty, mine is like high vibe energy or whatever, take days off if you need to get yourself back together again. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not saying that I don't believe in mental health days. I just don't believe that people should wait until they need a mental health day to take a day off. Okay. So if somebody is nervous about taking time off, I would first ask them to look at what things do they have in place. Do they not give themselves enough grace and credit for the things they have in place? And what I would highly recommend is to not jump into 14 days, but maybe take a couple of days off, primarily the days where your business still should be operating. And talk to your money team about this. That's another thing that can make people nervous about, like, what if my insurance billing doesn't go through? What if clients aren't paying on time if you got a coaching business? What if a glitch goes through with like somebody getting their ebook if you got like digital downloads or something like that? So these are all things that honestly you should be testing out multiple times before you go out, just to make sure everything is good. And then, like I said, you can set up the auto reply, or this may be your sign that you need to hire an admin at least 3 hours a week to oversee your inbox and handle these like customer service issues. Because as a CEO, unless you're trying to be a customer support manager, then act like a CEO. Okay. You should not be showing up acting like you run the whole customer service department. Hire a VA, hire an admin assistant, hire someone to help you support your business, not just for a vacation. All right. Last question. Would you do anything differently next time you plan a long trip? So this ain't even long. To me, 10 days, 14 days is like my goal, right? But with kids with different school schedules, that's not possible. But anything that I would change, I would say more resort days, not so heavy on the parks. Again, the only reason we took our boys to 3 out of the 4 Disney World parks is because we had all never been there during the New Year Christmas holiday. And when I tell y'all, Epcot, fire, lit. And I swear, every time we walked away from one of the DJ booths, they would always play hip hop. And I'm like, y'all keep playing this pump fist music. But anytime we sitting right here and we walk away, then you want to play all this hip hop, right? But we still heard the music and we were still walking down the stroll, dancing and stuff, getting food or whatever. But it was lit. And I don't regret it. But one thing I will, like I said earlier, take into future trips is paying close attention to our children's ages. I think it is harder to talk to them about things like a surprise because we don't want to give the surprise away. But it's something that me and my husband have now been fully aware of. And now that our eldest son really enjoys going to bigger theme parks, because at some point in his life, he did not like big rides. So it wasn't like we were in competition with not going there because he didn't get on all the big rides anyway. So now that they are both into thrill rides and my youngest son is of age where he can get on some of the roller coasters, we will definitely be looking at more resort time if it is warm or if we're in a warm climate, of course, spending more time at the beach, which I love, which I'm going to do like this Christmas, New Year's or whatnot is go by somebody's beach or island. But I would say that would be the only thing that I would change is more time doing nothing. And honestly, that is the trip that we had desired to have. But because we were last minuters on this trip, we ran out of time to get Walt Disney World tickets. And the only way we were able to get it is to stay on property, which meant that they give you the amount of days for the theme parks that match the amount of nights that are available. So we only wanted to do 2 days at the theme park out of 7. We had to do 3. And the way that the hotel was set up, you can't split the days. And I mean, I ain't gonna say that. They gave us a 3-day park ticket, 1 park per day, no hopper. And we had 5 days to use it. The problem was we couldn't use it until New Year's Eve. And New Year's Eve was on Tuesday. So we go to a park on Tuesday. We go to a park on Wednesday. We go to a park on Thursday. I'm not going to a park on Friday when we got to leave and go to the airport because we could have went to Animal Kingdom. That was a choice that we made. But I was just like, well, what if we don't want to leave? And I don't want to put myself in that position. I'd rather just go downtown Disney, which we did. We went to go see The Lion King, and that was fun. But I want to do more stuff like that in the middle of the week and sprinkled throughout. So with that said, I hope that y'all have enjoyed this very thorough Q&A. More to come. If you have additional questions about how to run a profitable business, digital business or digital product business or mental health business, and you really want to move your side hustles to scalable income with systems, I'm your girl. So if you love this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you would love to see more, I would love to have you back. And you have made it to the end of the Abundant BFF Club video. So go ahead and leave me like your best emoji that represents how you feel in January of this new year. And make sure you check out the series, y'all, because we had a good time traveling to Florida overall with our kids. My husband, we just had so much fun, and it was a fun and a new experience. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.